All right, here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1, brought to you by Larry King Law. If you're injured in an accident, you call 757-INJURED for Larry King. We're pleased to be joined with Coach Ed Young. I am Matt Hatfield by a special guest. He is the head football coach of the Cox Falcons in Virginia Beach, annually a playoff contender and one of the best in the Beach and the Hampton Roads area. Our good pal Bill Stachelski with us here on ESPN Radio 94.1 as he gets ready for, well, he's a New Englander guy. He's from up in Boston. Ed, he's ready for some February football, high school football version in 2021. How's that sound to you, Coach?
I'll tell you one thing.
I've been here a little, Go ahead, Ed.
No, I'm saying, Stack, I'm glad he's got to do it out in the cold weather, and I can just watch from the comfort of the TV because that's why I do indoor sports. I can't handle that cold weather. I got out of Pennsylvania because of snow.
And I've been down here over 20 years, so it kind of softened me up. So I get out there when it's in the 30s, and it does, I'm not that used to it anymore.
Hold on. You're anything but soft, Stack. That word does not come to mind with you. You are not soft.
No, you'd be surprised.
My
coaches are telling me that all the time. I think I'm getting old.
Well, let's tell us now. The opener's coming up for you. It's going to be on Friday, is it? The 26th of February at Kempsville. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
As you watch things unfold, I'm sure seeing the winter sports go, specifically with basketball here as this state championship Saturday, get underway, did that give you some optimism, some hope for how the fall sports and your sport football would be playing this year?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of seemed to get off to a little bit of a slow start. I know our sports teams, basketball in particular, they got sidelined for a while because of some COVID issues, and they only ended up playing a few games. But I was pleased to see that after the Christmas break that the division jumped on it and really made a concerted effort to make this happen. And everything seems to be flowing in the right direction right now. So we're excited about being able to get a half a season in, and we just keep our fingers crossed that everyone stays healthy and everyone does the right thing and we can get these kids playing football.
Well, and before I kick it over to Ed here, let's discuss the strategies and the way you've prepared for this. I mean, it's not a lot of time, your normal traditional off season. I know you did do some of that game academy 7-on-7 work, but that's not shoulder pads, helmet, and real tackle stuff. So how have you adjusted in your staff with the players to prep for this abbreviated campaign?
Yeah, it was really it happened quickly. We were meeting a little bit, the coaches, to prepare, but we didn't know when the word was going to come down or if it was going to come down. So once it did, we just took it slow. It was, you kind of have to move fast to prepare your team in less than a month. When you're accustomed to a whole spring of an off season, then a summer of conditioning, and then 2-a-days, and we got to kind of condense it into 3 to 4 short weeks to get prepared for a winter season, which is also, very unusual. But the kids have handled it the best. They've been on time for practice. They show up, they're prepared, and I think all indications when I speak to other coaches, it's kind of the same around. I think these guys have been away from what they love for so long that they are just chomping at the bit to get out there. They're being coachable. You don't have your usual absence issues. Although with COVID, our rules I know have become a little bit more lenient in terms of missing practice. But the bottom line is the kids that are there are the guys that are going to play, because safety is a concern too, not just the COVID part of it, but when you get kids out in the field that haven't practiced properly and haven't learned how to tackle or haven't, thought of their pads and done it live, you don't want to send them out in a game setting, of course, because that opens them up to injury. So it's been unique and it's been somewhat challenging, but it's been fun.
Ed?
Hey, Stack, how many games are you all going to play? How did that come about? And did the coaches have any say in what was going on?
For your third question, absolutely not. The coaches didn't have any say. The division and the activities coordinators and the principals, I believe, did most of it, I guess in conjunction with the VHSL, I'm assuming. And the schedule changed a few times. When they realized they were going to have a later start date, I think, than anticipated, they had to knock out one game, because originally we were going to have 6 games with 1 bye week, a 7-week season, 6 games, 1 bye week. And we went down to a 6-week season with 5 games and a bye week, but not everyone's getting a bye. I'm pretty sure like Bayside has to play one more game than some of the other schools. I'm not positive on that, but I think that's the case. And then, I think speaking for myself, I was just happy that we were going to play. I didn't want to, we have one home game and 4 away games. Normally, you'd complain about something like that, but I'm not saying anything. I think some teams don't even have home games. It worked out the way it worked out. And I understand the constraints that the division and the people that are making this happen have on them. So didn't want to make it any more difficult than it needed to be. So.
Okay. I asked that because obviously, as you know, we got canceled for basketball other than the beach. Everybody else got canceled. We were never, and it's pretty apropos everywhere. No coaches are ever consulted. No, what do you think? Would you guys like to do? Whatever. I know talking with Conyers, our football coach, they were set up for, I think, 6 games, maybe 7, mixture Chesapeake, Suffolk. And then 24 hours later, told you're going to play Kings Fork a couple times and you're going to play Lakeland a couple times. And then you're going to play city championship. And that was it. Like out of nowhere.
They're keeping it all like right in that specific area. Yeah.
And see, before that, the issue was who was not going to play Oscar Smith and who was? Because I'm sure there's some people that were like, well, if we don't have to have Oscar Smith on our schedule. So I was wondering with you guys, how do they determine? They just flip coins, whatever, who plays who? You say you're not concerned, I only got one home game. I know in the back of your mind you got to be, because come on now, common sense, you can easily sit down and do a schedule and at least give people a couple home games. If you're doing 5, get at least 2 home games. And apparently they didn't put a lot of thought in it. It was just, okay, we got to get games in. And as a coach, I agree. Hey, we're getting at least play. That's fine. But as you sit and look at it, you start wondering, couldn't they done a little bit more?
He's not complaining too much, though, Ed. He's not complaining too much, Coach. Sorry to touch off, but you don't have Ocean Lakes or Salem on the schedule, all right? So that does a little bit of a sigh of relief, right?
Well, my thing was not just Salem, Ocean Lakes, but I'm sure there's teams out there don't want to play Cox either. Come on now. I mean, if you had a schedule that has Cox, Salem, Ocean Lakes, I almost don't care who the other games are. That's enough. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But,
and then making the playoffs is twice as hard too, because I think they cut it from 8 to 4. And you're going to need, close to an undefeated record to make the playoffs. But, obviously winning is a big part of everyone's motivation. But I think this year, I'm not saying it has to take a back seat, but it's an unusual situation. And, we just want to keep the kids healthy and get them out there to get the film that they need for college, to get, my son's a senior. He's not going to be playing in college, but he's been working his rear end off to get this opportunity to be a 2-way starter and go out there and play football. So, this can satisfy a lot of people's needs in many different ways.
How about that, Ed? He's coaching his son. Another one of the coaches getting a chance to coach the son there in a sport for the last hurrah there. I know he's going to be a little extra hard on that one, I would think.
I don't coach his specific position, but when we go home and have dinner, sometimes he has to hear it from me. He's pretty good, though.
I would think the wife would step in and take care of that, throw a couple flags as need be, and discipline the coach instead of coach disciplining son/player.
We're talking with Bill Stachelski, head football coach of the Cox Falcons, who have been an annual playoff fixture in Class 6 and now Class 5. Our guest here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1. They've been in the postseason every year since 2013 through 2019. That would be 7 straight seasons. No 2020 calendar year, but we're here in the 2020-2021 campaign. It's ESPN Radio 94.1. And Coach, to go over that schedule that I have in front of me for you guys for this year, I'm looking at the opener at Kempsville to close out February. Then you open up February with the one home game against Bayside, at FC, at Kellum, and at Lansdowne on April the 1st. Is that still accurate at the moment, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I looked at it the other night. So that last game is a Thursday night game, and it's actually the night before spring break, which also brings up another interesting component is playoffs. There's no time to waste. So I believe playoffs start, according to the VHSL website anyway, April 7th, which is a Wednesday of spring break. I haven't confirmed that yet, but that's going to be interesting also.
Ed?
Hey, Stack, what's the protocol, as we've seen everywhere in pro sports, college sports? Somebody gets the COVID. And two ways, either somebody on your teams can get it. What's the protocol? What happens if you're contacted and said, hey, that game you had last week against Bayside, they had a case of COVID. Now, what kind of protocol do you guys have to face?
I'm going to try and answer those questions as best I can. I know that everything is on an individual basis. I don't think there's a blanket rule that pertains to that in general. Because, for example, let's say this football team that was practicing a couple of weeks ago had someone that was at practice, but then a couple of days later tested for positive for COVID. Did that person have symptoms when he was at practice? If the answer is no, I think there's different steps that are taken as opposed to if that person was actually experiencing symptoms and then came to practice. I don't know exactly, we have students coming back to school too. So that's another issue. Like I'm in my classroom here. When I have students here next week, if someone comes in and it's found that they test positive for COVID, does that mean each of us, teacher included, have to now go on quarantine for 2 weeks according to the school board and their tracking? I don't know the exact answer to that yet, but that's something that we have to consider. I do need to get with my activities coordinator before the season actually starts and figure that out. But I think they have, answers in place for that. I just don't know exactly what they are. Now, in a game, if we're playing someone and we find that someone of our opponents had COVID, I don't know how that works either. So I wish I could answer that a little bit better. But, the bottom line is I tell our players every night before we break, go home, sterilize your equipment, bleach wipes, wash your pants, wash your shoulder pads, anything you can wipe down, have your parents wash your uniforms if possible, wash your hands. If you're feeling sick, don't come in. Our trainers are screening them before they come to practice, taking their temperature, asking them those relative questions. The other benefit that we have with football is we're an outside sport. Like you said, basketball's inside. You would think it's maybe more likely that someone's going to get contract COVID while they're indoors than outdoors. I don't know the research on that, but it seems logical. So I think that's something that football has going for them as well. It's a lot easier to space outside as well. When we do our conditioning drills, when we do our stretching, we're all more than 6 feet apart. We try not to huddle. If we have to, we kind of will group up, but we don't actually huddle. So we're trying to do our best to prevent any of that from happening. And so far it's been 4 weeks since we got back to conditioning, second week of practice and nothing real serious to report. So.
Okay.
Let's get to some key players for your coach. Beginning on the offensive side of the ball, you got a quarterback in Dylan Hauser and a running back in Corey Hunter, both of whom are already committed to Christopher Newport University. Tell us about them and the rest of the offensive components for your squad.
Yeah, I think you're right in the idea that the offense starts with those guys. We've been very fortunate with our quarterback situation dating back to 2008 between, Tommy McKee and Derek DiNardo and Cole Johnson and Tavion Robinson and AJ Smith. These guys have all been college level players, and the offense basically runs through them because it's kind of a thinking man's offense, running the option and whatnot. Corey's a third year or pretty much a third year starter at F. And we're trying to spell him on defense so he can be kind of the guy that carries the ball. He's a tough little kid, and he knows the offense real well. On the outside, we have a couple good receivers with Mick Manning and Zaire Lawrence, who are both returning wide receivers. And then we have some really good athletes in the slot. We got a nice player from FC. His name's Jordan Cooper. He's only a sophomore, but he's fast as lightning. Kind of reminds me of Leno Lester a little bit. And he'll be playing the slot, so he can catch screens. He can run jet sweep. He can, he can be the pitch guy on option. And on the other side of him is Dom Wilson, who had a Navy Academy offer that didn't quite pan out, but he's got offers from the Citadel, and he's talking with JMU right now. So Dom's also a third-year starter as well. A little inexperienced on the offensive line, but we're hoping that our Hall of Fame coach, Alan Faneca, is going to fix that. He's working with a lot of young guys right now, and he's got a work cut out for him, but we're making slow progress. And if we can get the O-line together, I think we got a skill group behind them that can that can do a little bit of damage.
That's our next objective, Ed, is to get Alan Faneca on the program, the Hall of Famer from the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive guard. That's not a bad guy to help tutelage, giving the tutelage to those youngsters there in the trenches.
He's been nice to learn from. Absolutely. He's
Well,
taught me a lot. I know that.
And we're putting that in Stack's hands that he will get us Faneca with zero cost involved, fairly easy, and we don't have to use no agent.
Yeah, we just had to let the hype die down a little bit. You know, it's only been about a week, so I'm sure we'll be able to work that out. I'll talk to him today at practice.
For those who don't know, you also had for a while, I don't know if he was an assistant coach per se, but you had Alston Smith, son of Hall of Famer Bruce Smith, working out with some of your guys at times. And you've been blessed in a lot of ways having some guys like that who've had some success on Sundays.
Absolutely. It's, two Hall of Famers that helped coach. Bruce would come. He didn't spend a lot of time on offensive days, but he was there on defensive days, both for his son's junior and senior year. So put a lot of time in, and he was another great guy. And when he showed up to practice one day with Thurman Thomas, we were going through a walk through getting ready for Tallwood, I believe, and he showed up with Thurman Thomas. I was like, wow, this is special. So yeah, it's amazing. We've been blessed to have those guys as part of the program.
That's not too bad. And we should see if we can set up Faneca and Bruce Smith, just have a little one-on-one battle just for 5 minutes. I know they can go full 60 minutes back in their day. That'd be neat to see.
Back in the day, it would have been good. Right now, I'm not sure we want to see that.
Well, as we move over to the defense, and Ed can jump in here too. I know you don't have listed, I believe he's already enrolling early at Virginia Tech, EC Atute, one of our favorite players from a year ago, or as Ed always likes to say, easy for you to say. He was a playmaker for you, but you've got some other veteran guys that will hopefully pick up the slack and fill in for him, right?
Yeah, we do. EC was an outstanding outside backer and tight end. He's moving on, but we've got George Balance, who's going to be kind of our utility knife on defense. We're going to have him playing some defensive tackle, D end, and middle linebacker, which we think is his next level position. Again, Corey Hunter, who's our F, we're going to play him a little bit on defense, but we also have Hunter Waltz, who's a third year. So he's been starting since his freshman year. So yeah, he's going to be a junior. He's a third year starter. One of the smartest kids we've ever coached at linebacker. He just knows how to make reads and has great instincts and is really tough. We got kids like Brendan Wallace, who's a third year starter at defensive end. He's a little banged up right now after shoulder surgery, but he'll be coming back. Again, Dominic Wilson and Zaire Lawrence at safety, Mick Manning at, he's kind of a utility guy also, playing a little linebacker and corner. And Jordan Cooper, again, is going to help out in the secondary. Again, on both sides of the ball, the D-line is kind of where we're weakest on defense, and it's where we're weakest on offense too, is the offensive line. But we do have some big bodies that we're trying to just train and get them up to speed and ready. And I think, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to prepare, but I think they'll be coming in stride here in the next week or two.
A couple more minutes here with Bill Stachelski, the head football coach of the Cox Falcons, our guest here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk, as they gear up for their season opener for 2020-21 on Friday, the 26th of February at Kempsville. It's ESPN Radio 94.1. Ed?
Bill, you're talking about offensive line, defensive line might be your Achilles heel. Which one of those is it more detrimental to have a lot of youngsters and try to get going? Is there a pick of the two?
I would say it's more challenging on the offensive side. Offensive line, you have to understand the schemes. Okay. And I think that's probably where, with a young kid that doesn't have the experience, we lose, some strides in that regard. Because if you know who to block, that's one thing. But if you don't understand how the whole system works, especially in our offense, which we're leaving a lot of guys alone, it's easy to line up and say, all right, we're going to run inside zone. I got to block this guy or combo to that guy. But when we're running triple option, you got to figure out first who you're leaving alone. And that's how I try and teach it to these guys. Figure out who you're not blocking. And then usually it's the next closest guy. But for them, sometimes there are different rules, whether we're running a midline option or an inside veer or outside veer. And it can get confusing and overwhelming for the younger kids. So, and on defense, when I coached D for lot of years before I became a head coach, we used to just take the toughest kids and put them on the D line and say, that's your gap. Do what you got to do. If you read pass, go get the ball go get the quarterback. If you read run, worst case scenario, you get double team, get on your knees and cause a pile. I think defense is more a reactionary thing. Offense is more of a thinking thing.
Well, I figured that was going to be the answer, not being a football coach, except part-time. If the offensive line is a challenge, once again, I have to put my football cap on and say, 3rd and inches, you run flea flicker. 4th and goal, you throw it. Now, I saw somewhere in a write-up here, I'm looking at it now, Cox High School. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can quote it. We have to do a little bit more than what people are used to doing with me because we're being so run heavy in the past. Do I read through that coach's jargon and say, well, this Ed Young guy might have been right. We're going to throw a lot more.
Every year, Ed, because of you, we start out camp saying we're going to be balanced. We're going to throw the ball just as much as we run it. And then, we get into our first scrimmage and we throw 3 picks and then it's back to, 90% run, 10% pass.
I can hear the assistant coaches saying, other assistant coaches saying, hey, look, Bill, I don't know who the hell this young guy is. I haven't seen him in the NFL, college football, but whatever the hell he's coaching, he must be losing because I don't see him nowhere. We're going to go back to run the ball.
Passing it's fun. We did that passing league. We actually got more practice this year than any other year. So maybe we will be a little bit better at it. But that's my goal before I retire, Ed, is we're going to have 1 year. We're going to be extremely balanced. We're going to throw the ball just as much as we run it. I don't know if this year's the year though.
Well, with the young line, I can understand that 100% because you don't want your quarterback running for his life. And guys, it's funny when you're saying you're teaching kids who not to block. I can see me doing football, teaching kids who not to block. By the end of the first quarter, we wouldn't be blocking nobody. Coach, you said not to block.
I didn't think I was supposed to block him.
Right. I have bad enough time in basketball when I try to tell my guys, when the other team has the ball, cover somebody in a different uniform other than your own guy. And then my kids will say, well, Coach, that kid ain't moving any, but he's on your team. That's why he's not moving. So I'm glad I'm with basketball.
Listen, Stack, it's a good reason. It's a good thing he's not coaching with you because he turned your quarterback, Dylan Hauser, who's a very good player, and his father, Mike Hauser's on your staff. He turned him into David Carr, getting sacked and hit for his life, and they've been saying, get this guy off the field. So it's probably a good thing. Yeah.
I'm sure Mr. Hauser appreciates that.
Yeah, well, hey, 12 years there at Cox as the head man. They have finished above 500 or 500 or above every year. So they're doing something right there at Cox High School. We wish you all the best coming up with the opener at Kempsville. Best of luck to you on the field and also safe travels to you guys as you navigate this wild and unpredictable season. Thank you for doing this, and we appreciate you coming on, Coach.
Thank you guys for having me and doing what you do. Enjoy the state tournament, and we'll see you again soon.
Good luck to you, Bill. Stay safe, you and the family.
All right, Ed. Thanks.